The year is 323 BCE. In the opulent palace of Nebuchadnezzar II in Babylon, Alexander III of Macedon, better known as Alexander the Great, breathes his last at just 32 years old. The man who conquered the Persian Empire, spread Greek culture to the edges of India, and was worshipped as a living god has met a sudden and mysterious end. But what happened next is even more astonishing. Despite being one of the most famous figures in history, Alexander's final resting place has been lost for over 2 millennia. His tomb, once a site of pilgrimage for Roman emperors, vanished without a trace. Was it destroyed? Hidden? Or does it still lie buried, waiting to be found? This is the extraordinary, unsolved mystery of Alexander the Great's lost tomb. The first tombs, Memphis and Alexandria. When Alexander the Great died in Babylon in 323 BCE, his body became one of the most valuable political prizes in the ancient world. His general Ptolemy I Soter knew this better than anyone. Rather than allowing Alexander's body to be taken back to Macedonia or buried in Babylon, as some suggested, Ptolemy made a bold move that would shape history. He hijacked the elaborate funeral procession that was meant to carry Alexander's body to the sacred oasis of Siwa in Egypt, where Alexander had famously been declared the son of the god Ammon years earlier. Instead, Ptolemy diverted the golden funeral carriage to Memphis, the ancient capital of Egypt that predated even the pyramids. Memphis was a strategic choice for several important reasons. First, as the traditional religious and administrative center of Egypt, it gave Ptolemy instant legitimacy as the new ruler. Second, it was far more secure than Babylon, which was caught in the middle of the wars between Alexander's generals. Ancient historians like Diodorus Siculus and Curtius Rufus describe how Ptolemy used Alexander's body as a powerful symbol to cement his claim over Egypt. The mummified remains were placed in a magnificent tomb in Memphis, where they remained for several decades while Ptolemy consolidated his power and established what would become the Ptolemaic dynasty. However, as Alexandria grew in importance under Ptolemy II, the decision was made to move Alexander's body once again. Alexandria, the city Alexander himself had founded, was becoming the new center of Greek culture and learning in the Mediterranean. By transferring Alexander's remains to this gleaming new capital around 280 BCE, the Ptolemies were making a clear statement about their connection to the great conqueror. Ancient sources like Strabo and Pausanias describe the magnificent tomb constructed in Alexandria's royal quarter, a massive structure with a golden sarcophagus that was later replaced with a glass one after Ptolemy X melted down the original for coinage during a financial crisis. This Alexandrian tomb became one of the most famous sites in the ancient world. Roman emperors from Julius Caesar to Caracalla made pilgrimages to visit it. The geographer Strabo tells us it was located in the royal quarter near the palaces and the famous Library of Alexandria. For nearly 600 years, Alexander's tomb remained a place of reverence and political importance. Then, mysteriously, it vanished from historical records around the 4th century AD. The disappearance coincides with major earthquakes that struck Alexandria and the rise of Christianity, which viewed Alexander's divine status as pagan heresy. Whether destroyed by natural disasters, deliberately hidden, or simply forgotten over time, the location of one of history's most important tombs became one of its greatest mysteries. The vanishing. How the tomb disappeared. The disappearance of Alexander's tomb in Alexandria is one of history's most intriguing puzzles. For centuries after its construction, the tomb was well known and frequently visited. Then, quite suddenly, references to it stop appearing in historical records. The last certain mention comes from the Roman Emperor Caracalla's visit in 215 AD. After that, the trail goes cold. Several factors likely contributed to the tomb's disappearance, each revealing something important about the turbulent times in which it vanished. One major factor was the series of natural disasters that struck Alexandria in late antiquity. The historian Ammianus Marcellinus describes the devastating earthquake and tsunami of 365 AD that destroyed much of the city's coastline. Modern geological studies confirm that this was one of the most powerful earthquakes in Mediterranean history, with an estimated magnitude of 8.0 or higher. The royal quarter where the tomb was located stood near the harbor, making it particularly vulnerable to both seismic activity and rising sea levels. Archaeologists have found evidence that parts of ancient Alexandria now lie underwater due to land subsidence and rising Mediterranean waters over the past 2 millennia. Equally significant were the religious changes sweeping through the Roman Empire in the 4th century AD. As Christianity became the dominant religion under emperors like Constantine and Theodosius, pagan sites faced increasing persecution. Alexander had been worshipped as a god since his lifetime, and his tomb was a major center of pagan devotion. The Christian writer John Chrysostom, writing around 400 AD, mentions that even the locals could no longer locate Alexander's tomb, suggesting it had either been destroyed or deliberately obscured. Some historians speculate that zealous Christians may have dismantled the tomb to eliminate this potent symbol of paganism. Others believe the Ptolemies or later rulers may have secretly moved Alexander's remains to protect them from destruction. There are also intriguing but unverified accounts from Arab historians like al-Mas'udi in the 10th century, who claimed the tomb still existed in their time, though their descriptions are vague. What seems certain is that by the Middle Ages, knowledge of the tomb's precise location had been lost. The once great monument that had drawn emperors and pilgrims for centuries had faded into legend, its disappearance mirroring the fading memory of Alexander's empire itself. The mystery of what exactly happened to the tomb continues to drive archaeologists and historians to this day, with each new theory offering tantalizing possibilities, but no definitive answers. Modern searches. The hunt continues. The modern search for Alexander's tomb reads like an archaeological detective story, full of promising leads, frustrating dead ends, and occasional bursts of excitement. For over a century, archaeologists have combed through Alexandria's streets and harbor, using every available technology to locate the lost tomb. The most prominent figure in this search today is Greek archaeologist Calliope Limnaeos Papakosta, who has dedicated her career to solving this ancient mystery. Limnaeos Papakosta's work focuses on the Shalalat Gardens area of modern Alexandria, which ancient sources suggest was near the royal quarter where the tomb stood. Her excavations have revealed tantalizing clues. In 2019, her team uncovered a beautifully crafted marble statue that appears to depict Alexander, recognizable by his characteristic anastole hairstyle and youthful features. Even more significantly, they've uncovered the foundations of a massive Hellenistic-era structure measuring approximately 140 by 110 feet, dimensions that match ancient descriptions of Alexander's tomb complex. The site also features a double fortification wall, exactly as described by Strabo in his account of the tomb's architecture. What makes the search so challenging is that ancient Alexandria lies buried beneath the modern city. Archaeologists must work in tight urban spaces, sometimes digging deep beneath existing buildings. Limnaeos Papakosta's team has had to excavate down to 30 feet below current street level to reach the Hellenistic layers. Their work is slow and painstaking, requiring careful documentation of every pottery shard and architectural fragment. But the potential reward, finding one of history's most sought-after tombs keeps the mission going year after year. Another major discovery that fueled speculation was the 2014 excavation of a huge tomb at Amphipolis in northern Greece. Some initially hoped this might be Alexander's final resting place, but most experts quickly dismissed the idea. The tomb's artwork and construction style suggest it was built for a high-ranking Macedonian noble, possibly Alexander's mother Olympias or his wife Roxana. More importantly, all historical accounts agree Alexander was buried in Egypt, not Greece. Still, the Amphipolis find shows how any major Hellenistic tomb discovery sparks immediate connections to Alexander in the public imagination. As technology advances, new tools are being brought to the search. Ground-penetrating radar, 3D mapping, and underwater archaeology are all being employed to solve this 2,300-year-old mystery. Each season of digging brings the potential for a breakthrough that could rewrite history books and finally answer one of archaeology's greatest questions. Where lies Alexander? The wildest theory. Is Alexander in Venice? Among all the theories about Alexander's lost tomb, none is more surprising or controversial than the idea that his body might be in Venice, hidden in plain sight as the relics of St. Mark the Evangelist. This radical theory, proposed by historian Andrew Chugg, suggests one of history's greatest cases of mistaken identity. Chugg's argument begins with an unusual artifact in the British Museum: a massive granite sarcophagus originally carved for Pharaoh Nectanebo II, the last native ruler of Egypt before the Persian conquest. When Alexander died, this sarcophagus was empty and available in Memphis. Chugg proposes it was repurposed for Alexander's body, then transported to Alexandria when the tomb was moved. Ancient sources mention that Alexander's golden coffin was later replaced with a glass or crystal one, possibly this very sarcophagus lined with precious materials. The Venetian connection comes from a remarkable discovery in 1960. Workers restoring St. Mark's Basilica found a sculpted limestone block embedded in the wall of the crypt. The block depicts military equipment, including a Macedonian sarissa, the long spear used by Alexander's army, and a shield bearing the Virgina Sun, the royal symbol of Alexander's dynasty. Even more astonishingly, when this block was digitally scanned and compared to the British Museum sarcophagus, they matched perfectly in size and shape. Chugg's theory suggests that when Christianity became dominant in the 4th century, Alexander's tomb was in danger. Rather than destroy it, the church may have rebranded it as the tomb of St. Mark, Alexandria's patron saint. Then, in 828 AD, Venetian merchants supposedly smuggled St. Mark's relics to Venice, but Chugg believes these were actually Alexander's remains. The military imagery in the crypt, so out of place for a Christian saint, suddenly makes sense if it originally adorned Alexander's tomb. While many scholars remain skeptical, the physical evidence is intriguing. The perfect match between the Venetian block and Egyptian sarcophagus is hard to dismiss as coincidence. If Chugg is right, it would mean one of history's greatest rulers has been venerated as a saint for over 1,000 years, an irony Alexander himself might have appreciated. Why finding the tomb matters. The search for Alexander's tomb is about much more than locating some ancient bones. It represents a chance to reconnect with one of history's most influential figures in a profoundly tangible way. Alexander's brief life reshaped the ancient world, spreading Greek culture from Egypt to India and creating the Hellenistic age that would influence Rome and beyond. His tomb, as the physical endpoint of that extraordinary journey, holds immense historical and cultural significance. From a historical perspective, discovering the tomb could answer lingering questions about Alexander's death. The exact cause remains debated. Was it malaria, typhoid, alcohol poisoning, or assassination, analysis of any remains might settle this ancient mystery. The tomb's contents could also reveal new information about Macedonian royal burial practices or the early Ptolemaic dynasty's attempts to legitimize their rule through connection to Alexander. Culturally, Alexander's tomb represents the meeting point of multiple civilizations. As a Macedonian king buried in Egypt by Greek successors, with a tomb later visited by Roman emperors, its story encapsulates the interconnected ancient Mediterranean world. Finding it would provide physical evidence of this cultural fusion that Alexander's conquests began. On a human level, there's something compelling about solving a mystery that has endured for millennia. From Roman emperors to Napoleon to modern archaeologists, the search for Alexander's tomb has captivated history's greatest figures. Its discovery would represent one of archaeology's crowning achievements, a moment when legend becomes reality. Whether in Alexandria, Venice, or somewhere unexpected, the hunt continues because Alexander's story still matters, and his final chapter remains to be written.